Good morning, Rose Creek Golf Course. How can I help you today? Yeah, say I'm looking to get a tee time. What's your earliest time you have? Well, right now it's a pretty busy morning, so the earliest I would have would be 11 o'clock this Saturday. Yeah, that should probably work. And we're just going to play 9 holes, so we're just going to play the back 9. Sir, did I say it is a very busy Saturday, so unfortunately they'll have a lot of people making the turn at that time. So you're telling me we can't play the back 9 then? I'm sorry, sir, but that's not going to work out today. Maybe if you want to call on a less busy time, we can see if we can accommodate that, but it's just not going to work out on this Saturday. Click. Greg, I tell you, I don't remember a lot of them, and I know we do get several phone calls in regards to some, different requests, and maybe they're more legit than I think. Maybe it's not as bizarre as I think because we do get quite a few. I mean, they seem a little off the wall to me, but I don't know.
Wait till you get the one person who calls and says, I have an odd request. We'd like to play, but we'd like to start on number 3. Why number 3? Well, it's a little closer to my house. I mean, it's amazing some of the things that people ask or do while they're playing golf. Yeah. Incredible.
It's different. Like I said, maybe these aren't as odd as I think. I guess just being in the golf industry now for probably about 33 or 34 years, I guess you've seen a little bit of everything. But
on a good note, when they do call in now, here and Elzagle and Prairiewood and Osgood and Rose Creek, when they do call in now, you can say, yes, we can get you a tee time and come and play because we're open, right?
That is correct. We are finally open. It's been a long time coming. It's a late start, kind of like it was last year once again.
We beat last year.
Exactly. Beat it by, a couple days?
Couple days. So the person who walks in and says, it hasn't been this late forever. Well, it was last year.
That is...
Mother Nature, ever since I brought her up in that first podcast, she has just been after me.
You know what?
Try to be nice.
And it's weird because, today is what? It is May 1st, and it is National Golf Day.
It's National Golf Day today. We obviously have a machine out here in the back of us that's going to back us over, so they're going to beep while they're doing it. So we got that going for us. Again, we have activities. Do you have beepers on your golf carts? I think that's what we need, Matt.
So we are in our makeshift studio today, and yeah, it does sound like somebody's about to run through our office right here. But
I did just tweet the inside of our fabulous new facility, our studio, our multi-million-dollar studio of the people, as they say in for U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis.
Well, I tell you, looking around in our studio right here, if it was $1 million deal, we got a little shortchanged.
So what's new, Matt?
You know what? As you mentioned, we are kind of getting up and rolling as far as the golf courses in the Fargo Park District. It is great to be playing golf finally once again. It's been a tough road once again, especially for you over at Edgewood, and I know we've had some of our own hurdles and issues as far as at Rose Creek. But it's fun to actually see some of the familiar faces once again and see some of the smiles on people's face after having a long winter of not playing golf.
Although I don't like the late start, if May can turn around like last year's May did, last year's May was probably the best May that I've had, we would be okay with that. April's a little iffy. Obviously, we'd like to get started earlier, but what normally happens is we get open and then for 3 or 4 days and we get kind of marginal weather. That's pretty normal. But if the May weather is like 2018, I think we'll take it. I think the golfers will take it too.
Right, yeah. If we could think of every year like May 1 till the end of September, if we could possibly just have great weather during that stretch, that would be fantastic. But yeah, you're right. It's like Mother Nature sometimes teases us on the other end too, where we get some beautiful days in early April thinking, wow, this is going to be a long season, and then it just turns south in a hurry. So it's not the most beautiful day today on May 1 as a result, and their forecast isn't so rosy for the next couple, but hopefully it'll be warming up soon.
Well, I think it'll get better. I think the forecast kind of changes this time of year. It's hard to look out 7 days for them because, from what I've been told, this is the hardest place on earth to do a weather forecast. The hardest place on earth, Matt, to do a weather forecast.
It's probably more challenging than Phoenix. But
Phoenix, high of 90 to 120. Wind blowing, galing out of any direction at 2. We'll see clouds in about 2 weeks. Although they've had a marginal spring down there. So Welcome, everybody, to What's My Tee Time podcast. My name is Greg McCall. I'm the PGA professional at Edgewood Golf Course. I'm joined by Matt Cook, who's the golf professional at Rose Creek Golf Course. Thanks for joining us today. Matt, it's spring. What do we see? What players excited when they walk in the door? Are they looking for anything specific? What's a great way to get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for a lot of people, I think it maybe just sneaks up on them to a certain degree, and they probably aren't as prepared as they think. Like they start digging around. Oh, it's going to be 75. The golf course is open. I should find my clubs and go play this Saturday. And so they search through the house frantically to find their golf clubs and rush off right away to the first tee and get rolling once again. And that's experience may be positive at times, but I would think more times it's going to lead to probably some frustration. And so I think more than anything, at the beginning of the year, I think there's a lot of things we can do to prepare for a successful season. And, I think we've been getting a lot of people coming out to our range now that we've been open for this past week. I think that's always a great way to start, is get out and hitting some golf balls right away and hitting some chips and putts, working on the short game a little bit. But I've also had a lot of requests for lessons already, and I think that's one of the most fantastic ways to get rolling, once again, is just to reach out to your local PGA professional and, start out on the right foot. Make sure you're starting to get the right fundamentals and not wasting that time on the practice facility. We want to make sure we're just practicing the correct things rather than just perfecting certain poor fundamentals. And so I think that's always a great start as create some goals that hopefully that you want to improve this season and have some enjoyment with the game. And one way you'll be able to do that, I think, is through lessons.
And I think one of the questions that we always ask, or we should be asking when we start a golf lesson, is what do you want to accomplish there? And sometimes, I don't know if we can see the forest through the trees or what happens there, but a lot of times, most of the time, we get it, well, I want to hit my driver farther. Well, that's great, and we all do, for sure, but are there some things that we can do to help do that without necessarily banging that driver 50 times out on the lesson tee looking for that one magic moment? So, if you're going to take a lesson, please tell whoever you're taking a lesson from what you'd like to accomplish. I think one of the things that you should be asking, or you should be wondering about, is and sometimes people get generic answers to what they're supposed to say. I mean, what are you supposed to say? I mean, we say, how far do you hit it? And almost inevitably, almost all the time, I have my 7-iron about 150. Well, not very many people hit their 7-iron 150 yards. They just think that that's how far they're supposed to hit it. And that's not at all true at all. Everybody's a little bit different there. So, I think one of the goals should be for the player as they start the springtime is, what is their ball flight like, and how can we change that? If it's one way or the other, and most of the time it's left or right, but not all the time, is it overly curving in one direction? What can we do as PGA professionals to help that person change their ball flight slightly? Obviously, we talk about short game a lot. Hank Haney does a lot of great things, and I'm going to give him credit for this statement. He says everybody would be a better player if they didn't 2-chip it and never 3-putted it. So if you think about it as a player, I mean, obviously better players don't do that, but better players can take that to the point where, am I on the green from 100 yards and in all the time? Now, average player, no way.
Right.
But if you're not 2-chipping it and you're not 3-putting it, if you keep track of that, and that's one thing I don't think players do a great job with either. At the end of the day, well, yeah, I shot 100 and I didn't do this very well. Well, if you go back and look at it, is that really what caused their problem?
Right. No, I think those are some great points. I don't think people do have probably a really good grasp of really where their weaknesses are and where they really need to identify. And, we'll usually try to do a little bit of an interview, and I'm sure you do the same, as far as in that first probably 5 to 10 minutes at least with that player to find out some of those things. And yeah, you do get some broad answers at times, like, how is that ball flight? Which way are you hitting it? And they're like, well, both ways, and I'm like, we need to be a little more specific than that. I understand you might have some shots that go left or some shots that go right, but there's got to be some tendencies, Also, you're hitting it high, you're hitting it low. What does that contact feel like? And so I think as a better the more information I think you can give your instructor, the better it's going to be, I think, for them to try to make some of those corrections. And I agree totally, like you said, with Hank Haney. I think that's one thing in the spring of the year, especially. It's going to take some time before we're hitting it right on the nose every time, as far as out on the range with irons and woods. But it seems like the one thing that is really challenging is to be able to get that feel back once again and really save those strokes where it's really important. Like you said, we're going to miss some greens, and so if we can become much more tidy around the greens and trying to save some strokes, I think that's going to be one of your quickest ways to improvement and lowering those scores. So, yeah, definitely if we can get it on or near the green and try to get it on and no more than 2 putt, I think a lot of people are going to find that their scores are going to plummet.
As far as equipment is concerned, obviously there's lots of new equipment every year and we kind of change. But I think one of the areas that people really should look at each year is putting some new grips on their golf clubs. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you'll go and reach in a bag for whether you're giving the lesson or not, and you'll reach in there and they're very slippery. Grips wear out very quickly. Our skin is oily. It is outside, inside. So there's a lot of things that happen during our grips during the year. It's not an super expensive way to basically come up with a new set. If you think about it, you spend $100 to get new grips for the year. The grips really aren't, especially if you play it all. Even if you don't play, the grips get harder. So one thing that I would suggest you do is get new grips on your clubs. If you're not going to get new grips on all your clubs, then get grips on the clubs you use the most. I would say your driver, because obviously that's the one everybody gravitates to. But if you do put some new grips, and there's a million different kinds of grips that you can do too. So new grips, I think, in the springtime are a key.
How about as far as just, if they're thinking about equipment-wise, and they're thinking, boy, I might, I've got X number of dollars as far as disposable income I'm going to spend this year, and I really want to upgrade my set. I every once in a while will get those players that maybe they're either newer to the game or they're just not what they feel as far as great players at this time, hoping that clubs will make the difference. We talk about club fitting, and they're kind of like, well, I'm probably not good enough for that. Thoughts on club fitting as far as in the spring of the year?
Well, I always think you should analyze what you have or what you want to do. I think you bring up a great point. I mean, we get that question a lot. What can I do to improve my game, or can I get new clubs? What do you want to spend? I mean, that's really, and obviously golf is not cheap. So if there's a realistic number that you want to spend, I think us in the golf shop can help you decipher as to what level of club fitting can we do for that amount, and then B, what club may help you or may not help you. I think, in the springtime of the year, well, all the time, I say this all the time. I bet people use 6 or 7 clubs in their bag the whole time. That's all they use.
Right.
The rest of them just kind of sit there. So, in the spring, if your goal is to get better, then I think you need to change your ball flight, whether that's one way or the other, or at least understand how to change that ball flight. If you're a good player, bad player, doesn't really matter. And then, obviously, like you said, around the greens is very important, because it is a place where every single hole you can possibly shave off one shot. I'm not going to say you're going to shave off 18 shots every time, but if you go through and you think about it, again, the 2 chips and the 3 putts, if I have 5 3-putts, there's 5 shots right there, pretty easy. If I 2-chipped it twice, now you're up to 7. And all of a sudden, maybe a mediocre round goes to a great round.
It's interesting too, as far as if you're new to the game or are just not familiar with the rules, of course, we are limited by 14 golf clubs in our bag is what the rules of golf states, as far as on the high end. But, when you're looking at set makeup even that you kind of alluded to, do you find that people have a lot of clubs like in the longer clubs, like fairway woods, maybe even a 3-iron, tools that they're probably not very efficient with or do very well, but yet don't have a whole lot as far as in the shorter irons, like with the wedges?
Oh, I think that, the big term that we see with ping is gapping. What gapping do you need? And how many times do you get it where the person will say, well, I kind of hit my 3-wood farther than my driver. That there are some swing speed issues there that create that. Well, why don't you just hit your 3-wood then? Right? Or you may have the wrong loft on your driver without that. But there's 14 clubs maximum. Doesn't mean you have to carry that many at all. Again, right. I think people use probably 7 or 8 depending on where they play all the time. And I think people would be better, one of the golf management things people don't even think about when they're playing. They just go hit it, right? There's no golf management at all. So if they really play to their strengths more often, if you can't ever hit a driver, yes, let's work on it and maybe do something to correct it. But if you hit your 3-wood better than you hit your driver, when you're out there playing, the goal is to shoot your lowest score, not how many drivers you hit. right? So maybe we should be hitting our 3-wood all the time. Or if your favorite distance is X, let's try to get it to that distance more often, so you give yourself a little bit of confidence as to, why leave yourself. I hate 50-yard pitch shots.
Sure.
I'm not great at them, and I blame growing up where I grew up. That's an excuse, but those are hard for me. I'll do anything not to leave myself that. If I have to lay up or if I have to try to do something different, to leave myself with that. For better players, it's usually that 100 to 110 yard shot, or 80 to 110 yard shot is what they're trying to get to. I think the 20 handicapper, if they would think about that a little bit, I think could take shots off their game.
Right. It was kind of funny. That almost brings me to listening to this weekend. I think it was the Zurich, and it was a team event, so it's a 2-person team event, and Rahm was being paired with. He just won. Who was it that he was paired with? I'm trying to remember. Palmer, yeah. And anyhow, I think they got, was it maybe the 18th hole or one of the finishing holes, I think, and his caddy was
16?
having this. Yeah, 16 it was.
Maybe hit 8-iron off the tee?
Right.
He hated it.
And John did not want to do that. It's like, I want driver.
Oh, he did not like that at all.
He's like, dude, what were they had, like a 2, 3, 4 shot lead at the time or something?
Right.
I don't even know. And so, yeah, that was kind of funny. John was not wanting to practice good golf management there.
Even the best players in the world get like that. They get stubborn sometimes. And tour players, better players, sometimes at that level are a little bit different because they're super aggressive all the time. It's hard for them not to be like that because they get themselves in positions by being that way. But the average player, if they would try to plod themselves around the golf course, I think would be benefited. I also think that very few 10 handicappers and above understand how far they actually hit it with any club.
Yeah, no, that's probably the point.
There's no standardization. Again, why hit my 7-iron 150? Well, I don't hit my 7-iron 150, but you have to have a base there so you kind of understand when you have X yardage, what are you going to try to do? Right.
And I think the other thing too is, I don't know who made the quote, but whether it's equipment, whether it's in instruction or whatever it is, I think just basically setting goals, and I think they've said before, goals without a plan is basically a dream. And so, not only do you want to have some goals, it's like, what is it? Is it to improve your overall handicap? Is it just to play more golf? What is it? Just enjoy the game more, have those goals and then have a plan. How am I going to execute that once again? Because if you just throw those goals up on a wall and think it's magically going to happen, that's not going to be the case. And that's, I think, the other benefit as far as working with an instructor, because the two of you can go ahead then and look at those goals, see if they are realistic based off of your time and your commitment, and then develop that plan. And I think if you actually did that, you actually had those goals, and then you actually made a reasonable plan to carry out, and you followed through with that, I think everybody would definitely become much better players, and they'd definitely increase their enjoyment of the game.
So we are now about a month past the Masters. Obviously, Tiger Woods wins. Have you seen any effect at all in the shop or anywhere with the Tiger Woods effect winning the Masters?
I tell you what, I was I don't know if I guess I was surprised, but the people, the talk, the chatter, I mean, they were just jacked, and I never know how overall as far as the fan base is with Tiger. There's obviously so many things that have happened in the past, whether you're a Tiger fan or not, but it just it was awesome as far as to kind of see the response and the excitement, the buzz. The only thing that's been disappointed so far is Tiger's been kind of like the disappearing man ever since the Masters, and I don't know if his plan is even to play again before the PGA, to be honest. He's not playing this week. And
yeah, I think I looked at something where he won't do that. He won't play before that. And they say he's not hurt, he's just tired. And my goodness, again, walking around Augusta for 4 days, I don't know how he'd ever make it around and survive it. But apparently he's tired and he needs some break. He's kind of going back to, I think, before he would play a certain way, he would only play 16 events or whatever the case might be. That's all they're going to play. They're going to set their schedule based around that. Last year, Tiger Woods played more than that. I think, because he had been out of the game for a couple years. He was trying to figure out if his body would take it. I think he's somewhat answered those questions, hopefully, that his body will take it and what his routine needs to be. So, we'll be back to seeing Tiger probably, at Bethpage Black will probably be the next time, and then we'll probably see him one more time before the U.S. Open. and then we'll probably see him one more time before the British Open, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think I was looking at something earlier. I saw that I think Tom Hoagie's probably played in 20 events this calendar year from last fall into now, and I think Tiger's played in 6, I believe. And so he did say he was going to be playing less, and I guess he's living up to the bill right now. I see Tom's playing, I think, this weekend at the Wells Fargo Championship out in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hopefully he'll get on the correct tracks and see if we can have
his
a
partner made the cut last week, so
Right.
it was good that they made the cut. They didn't have a great Sunday, but they made the cut. I know Tom's had a very good record, I think, in North Carolina this week, so hopefully he continues to make strides. He's had kind of a rough stretch here, but it's hard. We've talked about this before. It's hard. Amy Olsen continues to, make a cut each week, so I think that's. I always wonder, and I've asked a lot of people this, whether they tell me the truth or not, I don't know. I asked David Schultz this one, quite a few times when he was playing on the tour. How hard is it to get comfortable there? Because in reality, though it is their living. You have to be able at some point to get comfortable, don't you? You can't be nervous there on the first tee box. You can be nervous, but not to the point where it's detrimental. You start to get to know the golf courses better, and I think Tom and Amy both now, as they start, if they can keep playing, right, they start to be able to pick their schedule a little bit, which I think is key. They start to pick the golf courses that they like, and they start to feel a little bit more comfortable on those courses.
Yeah, that would probably make sense. I'm sure there's been multiple stories of people that have probably endured some of those hardships and pains and had some time before they've finally done it. And the one that comes to mind to me, of course, is Tom Lehman right away, who I think was pretty much spread out through all the different tours before finally getting his card as far as on the PGA, and quickly rose to, I think Tom was number 1 in the world at one point for a short period of time. Won a major, and like I said, this is a guy that was probably traveling all around, who knows, the likes of Europe and Africa and wherever else, and I don't know what the trigger there, how the light all of a sudden just kind of flipped on, but he had a pretty good little career there and continues to do quite well as far as even at the senior tour, and so hopefully with that maybe Tom also may find that light switch sooner or later and become that more comfort level. And
There is a comfort level in having confidence in what you're doing, and a non-comfort level in when things maybe don't go your way, especially when you're playing at that high level on golf courses that are pretty severe in most places. They're not severe like you're going to shoot over par every day necessarily, but the winning score is going to be pretty low most weeks. But the confidence level, you can just see it. There's a PGA Tour. Connors is his last name. I can't think of what his first name is. He won the week before the Masters, and for about a month there, he was just like a player that we hadn't heard a lot of. All of a sudden, he's playing in the last group like 3 out of 4 weeks. So if you can build some confidence, and the average player is no different. If you're playing good, you want to play more, obviously. And if you're not playing good, it's kind of I don't really think I want to go play today.
Yeah, right. Amy's out. I think she's out in California this week as well, so she'll be playing. I think the last time I saw, I think she's ranked 34th right now in that race to the CME Globe season, 35th in official money. So not having a bad start, and hopefully she can continue to plod along and move her way on up. So
this yesterday started U.S. Open qualifiers, local qualifiers around the country for the next probably 2 weeks. I think basically you'll get 10,000 players trying to qualify for 70 spots. It's one of those amazing things. I, for a long period of time, would go local qualify in Minneapolis. It was the scores at the local qualifier are not usually terribly low to make it to the next one. Obviously, the sectional level, when you add tour players, is where the scores get really low. But if you can shoot, even part a couple under, chances of getting out of local qualifying are pretty good. I've seen some amazing things happen. It's kind of like when we take our players' ability tests on players who get to a certain point, have never been to that point. It's just like, you can just see the light shining in their eyes. They have no idea what they're going to do. So for the next 2 weeks, there'll be lots of local qualifiers. I think yesterday there was a spot that had their qualifiers and they have alternates. There was 9 guys for 1 or 2 spots, something like that. So I'm sure you see some really funky things. Senior Open qualifier, me and you.
Yeah, there you
in
go.
The city's coming up. May 8th is a deadline, so we can still do it. I've done that one time again. It's kind of fun, but if you are a good player and want to try to qualify, there are certain criteria there, but it is open to anybody to try to do it.
Huh. Oh, that'd be fun. I wonder how much different the scores are as far as the seniors versus the regular as far as open qualifiers.
Well, one nice thing about the seniors is there's only one qualifying. So, like if you go to Minneapolis and you qualify, you get into the Senior Open.
Oh.
The regular U.S. Open, there's the local qualifiers,
And like a
all around the
sectional or
country,
something?
and then the sectional after that. So the senior is, if you find lightning in a bottle, you could make it. But it's pretty cool, and the scores aren't super low there. I mean, super low there either. It's 1 or 2 under par, which is a good score for us. But there's a lot of people out there that can do that. So if you want to do that, you have to get your entries in a little bit earlier. But it is kind of cool because anybody can do it. The U.S. Opens, the USGA events for the pro wise are the only events that anybody can do it. Lots of amateurs try to qualify, tour guys trying to qualify. So it's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Moving on, it's kind of cool. I was looking through the Twitter feed the other day, and did you happen to see a little bit of what Eduardo Molinari had sent out on his Twitter, talking a little bit about the pace of play on tour once again?
He obviously listened to my rant at the Masters pace of play at 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours seems to be the number that all those guys play in, because I think he started it. Eduardo Molinari, European Tour, last week, had a little problem with a 5.5 hour round.
Right, yeah, and so I think he finally got tired of it and probably did something that's a little taboo out there. He basically found the list of players that have basically been both, warned and also potentially even fined, and posted that on his Twitter deal, which was kind of interesting to see the list of names and who's been on out there. I think there was 150 different names that were on this list. Surprisingly, of all these individuals, I think only 3 were fined, and the fine, I think, was only about $3,000 for the player. This is on the European Tour list. I'm not really familiar as far as what their whole policy is, if they've even got one in place. I'm sure they do. But it is probably, once again, when you look at it, it seems like there should be a solution to that. Listening to the players, I think you've got them both ways. Some that obviously are fed up with it, and others are saying that there is no solution. They talk about the course setup, the difficulty. They're talking about the purses they're playing for, and da-da-da-da-da, that it's like, hey, it needs to take that, but I don't know.
Does it matter?
It probably doesn't matter when it comes to as far as in the tour and in television. I'm sure it loves it. They'd be probably freaking out if these rounds are 3 hours.
Yeah, but they're not. Okay, so they're not going to be. The problem that I have with that is, and when I brought it up before, some people said it'll never change because of sponsorships, and the case might be. We're not asking the tour to go from 5.5 hours to 3. That's not going to work, right? But 5.5 hours to 4.5 hours, or 4 hours and 15 minutes, I think is reasonable. Having said that, right? Because what happens? Most of the time now, if it's on network TV after their allotted time, 4.5 hours, what do they have to do? Well, they have to go to the Golf Channel anyway.
Right.
So to me, they lose all that credibility in that respect anyway. I continue to say this all the time. I don't think it's good for the game. That's all we hear about is slow play. Is there an answer? The only answer is, here's the deal. Somebody's got to stand up and say, if it takes you longer than X amount, or you fall more than 5 or 10 minutes behind the group behind you, we're going to start adding shots to your score.
Right.
I know it's hard, right? Because there's the hardest part is that you can only play as fast as a group in front of you, and if the group in front of you is playing slow, but there's no reason that you should get out of position. One hole for me, if you're one hole behind, I think that I don't know this for a fact, but usually one hole behind, that's when the tour starts to time you. If you get one hole behind, you're behind. That's terrible. You should never get one hole behind. Part of the problem that the tour guys have is they don't want to wait. They don't want to get to the next shot and wait. You know what? If that group in front of you is playing faster, then you won't have to worry about that. I don't like it because on the consumer end of it, I hear it just takes too long to play all the time. I think it does have an effect on the people that watch it. They see it. They talk about it. I think that's too long.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think you're right on, too. I think, the fines seem like it's not going to make a difference because $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, what's that matter to majority of those players out there making the purses they are right now? You start assessing on penalty strokes. Now we're talking about points they could be potentially losing. You're talking about dollars earned, everything. It's all going to follow along with that. And so that's a big deal. And so I think as soon as you start putting that in place and actually had a hard policy and you stick to it, now I think that's definitely going to change it. And these arguments like, well, the golf courses are set up so tough and we need this. It's the same for everybody.
Correct.
And so it's unfortunate that they're belly aching about that, saying, well, I can't play it in less than 5.5. Well, how about that guy that can play it in 4 at a disadvantage than he is? So you got to keep telling me I have to play a game at 5.5 that I can play in 4, and I really feel comfortable playing in 4. So it's not right. And so I just think that I don't know if they're ever going to end up getting the courage to do something like that, but I think you're right on. I think for the PGA Tour, I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to educate people to even more so realize that it's not okay. And I think we just need to change that culture in general. I think there are a good number of people that are fast players, like even our everyday players, whatever, and enjoy playing fast. And I think they're educated too of when they want to play. So those tend to be people that are kind of our dew sweepers, the first on out, because they know that, hey, I'm not going to have those 5-hour groups out in front of me. I'm going to be able to set that pace, get done early, and having fun playing at a pace that I enjoy to play. It's a little bit, we always hear, I'm sure you probably hear some grumbling. I know we do at times as far as pace of play, and everybody has a little bit probably different opinion of what the correct pace of play would be. In theory, I think when we're busy out at Rose Creek, it's like if you're playing in the morning rounds right away being a dew sweeper, I think it is doable to play in maybe 3.5, 3:45. I think as you get into the day more and more, especially since we are revenue driven and we are doing a pace, a tee increment of 8 minutes, which ends up putting a lot of players on the golf course. I think after, you get into the day a couple hours, I think the reality is it's hard to play probably in less than 4 or even probably closer to 4:15. So that's where I think when you're looking, especially on a busy weekend when the tee sheet's filled, I think 4:15 to 4:30 is probably closer to the reality. But that being said, that should probably be the max still. We should be able to get those people around in that time.
Yeah, education purposes for the average player, I think you always need to look where the group is in front of you.
Right.
Not worry about where the group is behind you, because you should be able to keep up with the group that's in front of you. And yes, I understand that golf can be hard, and there's times where you'll fall behind slightly. But if you get a hole behind all the time or more than that, I would suggest that you need to try to catch that group that's in front of you. And again, we understand that golf's not easy at times and there'll be some ebb and flow there. But I think if everybody looked at the group in front of them and tried to keep up with that pace, I think everybody would be fine with it. And I agree, there's no perfect time here. And sometimes a player that comes out at noon that wants to play in 3 hours has to understand that that's probably not going to happen. If they need to play in 3 hours, let's give them some options to play earlier in the day.
A fellow professional of ours that we both know, I loved a line that he had one time. He'd come on out, and I don't know if he'd gotten a call that there was an issue out on the golf course as far as with a single group that was playing quite slow. But he gets out to the group, and he talks to one of the individuals. He says, hey, have you seen that group in front of you? And they said, no, we haven't seen him. He goes, that's the issue. So you're exactly right. Everything so often we look back and think, well, no one's right on my heels, so therefore I'm not playing slow. That's not the case. Where are you in regards to the group in front of you who probably teed off right in front of you? You should be biting right their heels the entire round. And if you don't see them, that is the problem.
And we are expected, etiquette-wise, to try to play at a pace that is reasonable. And again, depending on where you're playing and how many people are on the golf course, there's obviously some slight variations there, but a reasonable amount of time. And if you're playing within a half a hole of the group that's in front of you, I think if you had the whole day like that, I think everybody would be fine with that.
And I think, people just need to be a little bit more educated. It's like, you can save a ton of time, even little things like, just being prepared. It's kind of like if you're watching a baseball game and, you see the person on the on deck circle, he's already probably watching the pitcher. He's already making some swings. He's kind of warming up, so he's ready. So when it gets to his turn to step in the batter's box, he's ready to hit. He doesn't have another minute and a half, 2 minutes to sit and analyze everything. So same thing as us when we're playing in our groups. It's like when your other players, whether they're hitting their shots, this is your time already that you should be getting those distances. getting those club selections, so after your partner hits, you're ready to be on the clock now and go ahead and hit it. It shouldn't be that I'm going to sit, wait, watch my partner hit, see his ball goes, da-da-da, and then I'm going to start doing my calculations and drawing my clubs and figuring out what I'm going to do. Same thing on the putting green. It doesn't have to wait till your turn to start reading your putts and getting all of that. You can have 2, 3, 4 different people all doing that at the same time, so that when it is your turn now, boom, you're ready to go ahead and make that play and not starting that. And if you just do those little things, I think people would just end up speeding up quite a bit over a course of 18 holes, So hopefully, like I said, just kind of learning some of those things and mannerisms and just being a little bit, more than anything, just being, showing more proper etiquette, like you actually care. And that's the other thing too. I think some people, it doesn't matter. I paid my green fee, and so therefore I'm entitled to spend 6 hours out here if I so choose. And that's not the case. Everybody's got, are entitled to be on out there and to play in a reasonable amount of time. And so, just, being, considerate to those other players as far as I think would go a long ways.
So earlier in our this podcast, we talked about equipment and springtime. One of the questions that I'm getting asked more and more, which is great on my end of it, is golf balls. What golf ball should I be playing? Do you have any suggestions, Matt, on golf balls or there was My Golf Spy, I think, just came out with their golf ball evaluations yesterday, I think, and it's probably hitting the interweb very hard right now because there's a lot of brand name golf balls that didn't get a very good grade that are high-end golf balls. And so what factors do you like to see? Is there a factor? Does it matter? I mean, all the golf balls are good now, but what should a player be looking in a golf ball?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, when people do ask, I think everybody as far as the industry is probably pushing hard to get to the legal limits and trying to make that ball, whether it's to spin more and fly farther and, everything else. So I think there are just a lot of great golf balls out there. But I think, people, there's some people that are thinking that maybe they need a more of a distance golf ball. They really, really don't hit it very far. Others are thinking, well, maybe I need something that's going to spin a little bit more for me, whatever. I think even those sometimes can be a little bit backwards as far as in their thinking. And what I mean by that is if I don't hit it very short, that probably means I'm not hitting many greens. And so therefore maybe I do want a ball that I've got some good feel and reaction around the green so that I can have more control as far as on my pitch shots when I'm missing those greens. And I've got a good feeling golf ball that I can, have a good touch as far as on the greens themselves. And so there are a ton of choices out there right now, and it seems like more and more golf balls are being created in the market and getting into it that are touting that they're the next greatest golf ball. So there are a lot of varieties there, and what's cool now is more and more companies are starting to even do ball fittings too, to kind of help the consumer. Yep. Even if it's online, if you go on there and maybe just put in some of your tendencies, maybe distances, ball flight, things like that you have. Once again, they can kind of probably narrow down maybe what might be a better golf ball for you. And it's not a bad idea. It's cool. Golf balls are sold by the sleeve as well. So, even if you purchased 3 or 4 different sleeves and take them out on the course of play and just kind of see how they respond, you may find something that maybe gives you just a little bit better advantage than ball B, C, or D.
Yeah, I think if you use the technology that we have now, like you just said, if you Google what ball is best for me, it'll come up with websites that you can plug some numbers in, like you said, and get probably a great indication as to what kind of golf ball that you want to play. And obviously, just like in everything else, when you need to pick what dollar amount that you feel comfortable with, and obviously, it has to be reasonable. That dollar amount has to be reasonable to give you some options. But if you're out there and you're having questions on it, please, ask your PGA professional. They can help you out with at least give you an idea of what's out there. I think there's a ton of great golf balls out there right now. They're all kind of at that limit. They all feel a little bit different, I think. I think one of the things that people gravitate to is sound. What sound do they like? Some like it clickier, some don't like it clickier. That tends to be maybe the companies that they end up going with based on that. So, maybe that's something in the spring that you try. Is there a golf ball out there that I haven't hit before? I think if you find that if you think you're hitting the shots similar off the club face and they're going different distances a lot, I think that really could be in your golf ball.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. It's like all those things, whether it's club fitting as far as an equipment, golf ball fitting, getting new grips on your clubs, lessons. I think all are, it's ways that you can really, have a great opportunity to really improve your game once again, the overall happiness in your game. And so spring's a great time to do that. A lot of courses, I know that you and I both have club fittings coming on in, and that's where you probably have just dedicated manufacturers will be coming on in. And what's really cool there is a lot of times they might have a few more options as far as with shaft technology and whatever else you can take a look at, as well as some electronic equipment that can really measure some of those things for you. So it's a great opportunity to take a look and see if you're leaving a little bit on the table and to get those things set up. Speaking of leaving a little bit on the table, we usually do our number section, and one number I did have for this week was the number 9. Does 9 come into your recollection over this past weekend?
Number 9?
Number 9.
No.
Number 9. Louis Oosthuizen and Charles Schwartzel playing in the Zurich this weekend shoot our opening round 64, which I think was actually in the 4-ball, which is what we probably call best ball around here. Both players play their own golf ball, and whoever has the better score in the hole is the one that's counted. So they opened up with a 64, and we're really in contention. I think they're only about 4 shots off the lead. So they're coming in day 2 hoping to light it on up, and their opening hole was hole number 10, and they're playing foursomes now. So this is a 2-man competition. You don't see this very often on the tour. So they're playing in the foursomes, or alternate shot, as we would say. And I believe it was Oosthuizen that was up to bat first on number 10, and he drastically hit his shot, hooked it left, and sure enough, they discovered that it was out of bounds. So now Schwartzel's got to go back to play. So he gets up there, and of course, not wanting to repeat the same mistake as his partner, proceeds to kind of block or hit one way out right. Sure enough, that ball's out of bounds. So now we just got to hitting 2 out of bounds.
I can see me and you doing this soon.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. So Oosthuizen's up to bat once again, and he pipes one down the middle. And they proceed then to hit their 5th one, I think, the 6th shot back on the green. And to make matters worse, I think one of them ended up missing about an 8-footer, and so narrowly missing on a quadruple bogey. So I think it was a quintuple bogey, and basically went from in contention to having the weekend off in a matter of 1 hole. And so I think we've probably all maybe had those moments where it got a little bit rocky, and unfortunately there, like I said, things were going quite well for him after round 1, thinking things were going to be okay, and then after 1 hole, things changed drastically. So even the big boys have some mistakes now and then.
It does expose everyone's fear factor when they're playing with somebody else and their shot has to count. It becomes a whole different game, and it's fun to see tour players have to deal with that sometimes because, normally it's just them. I mean, it means something for sure, but it's only them. When they have to turn and look at their partner, it becomes a little harder. We used to try to play best balls, and we'd stand on the first tee, and you'd look at your partner and go and say, I'm sorry. I'm not going to say it for the rest of the day, but I'm sorry. Let's go have fun and see what happens. But you're always like, yeah, partner, I'm so sorry about that. I saw Sergio Garcia missed just a super tiny putt there, and you just kind of wonder what he's thinking about and what his partner's thinking about. It happens to everybody. So I like the game in that respect, and I think the format is cool.
Well, you and I are playing in our first event coming up next Monday in the Luther Series in our Minnesota section, and so it is. You
promised to carry me, man.
It is a 4-ball competition, so I'm just going to say now, Greg, I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure that there'll be some live tweeting and live podcasting going on while we're playing that event.
Well,
we'll protect the names to protect the innocent. But it'll be me and you, so it'll be wildly fun. Hopefully we catch a nice pairing there so everybody understands. How many golf balls are you bringing?
Well, we're carting, right? So I'm not too worried about carrying my bag, so I might have about 3 dozen.
Lots of What's My Tea Time golf balls in my bag.
Right.
Once again, folks, I think all the local golf courses are getting open. Rose Creek is open. We'll have 18 holes open by the time that you hear this podcast. Prairie Wood has got 9 holes open. Osgood, 12 holes in the driving range. Rose Creek's driving range. El Zagel is open for both regular golf and foot golf. Edgewood, obviously, we're doing our best to get the golf course ready, but our driving range is open. I've had some questions on our practice facility too, when that's going to open. We just need a little more time with soil temperatures, just to give that grass a little bit of time to start to germinate slightly, and then we'll get that open. Anything else for the good of the cause? You got any awards, Matt?
You know what? I'm going to give an award out to our superintendent and his staff because, we're not battling near the issues we've got up north as far as at Edgewood, but we had our own little water issues, and the water's come off now. They've done a fantastic job of trying to clean up and get things rolling. They've been working hard throughout, 7 days a week, and things are coming out probably a little bit more positive than what we anticipated, which is good. There's still a lot that we have to work through just yet to see how we do come out, but as of now, things are looking much more optimistic, and we're going to have, like I say, all 18 holes open. We will have hole number 12, for you that are familiar out here, is a par 5. We'll be playing that short for a little while, so I'll be probably played as a par 69 for the golf course right now, but still we'll have 18 holes, and I think majority of the golf course is in really good shape. So kudos to the staff and their great efforts, and so we look forward to hopefully having great course conditions and hopefully a nice season. Hopefully the weather is going to start to improve quickly here, and we'll get everybody opened up.
Yeah, my Greggy Award was going to be the same thing. Eric Hansen, Victor Heitkamp, Jason Spitzner, his crew, all Fargo Parks. We sometimes take them for granted, or most of the time take them for granted, but to get the golf courses open, as soon as the snow is gone, it is very difficult. There's some other things that they have to do. So shout out to them. If you see them, say thank you. They're doing the best they can to get the golf courses ready. We look forward to a great year if Mother Nature will kick us into gear a little bit. So
awesome.
Are you ready?
I think that wraps up another one.
Partner, are you ready?
I'm about as.
Are you ready?
I'm not even close to ready.
All right, neither am I.
But I'm going to get ready.
So how about this? How about if we don't make any practice swings until we get there?
I can't do that. I can't just preach right now about people need to get out there and actually.
So you're re-gripping your clubs. You're taking some golf lessons.
You know what? I should. I probably won't re-grip. I actually got new golf clubs in
right.
November of last year.
I forgot that. You haven't even taken the plastic off them yet.
So I'm going to take the plastic off my golf clubs first of all and make sure I have them all in my bag. I've probably had some kids that have probably been taking them out and hitting practice swings as far as in the house. But I'm going to make sure I get all the plastic off my clubs, make sure I have golf balls in my bag. I'm definitely going to at least take some swings to make sure my body is going to be able to react favorably. And I'm going to be as much prepared as a person that gives a day of preparation. I'm going to be ready.
Look forward to the live tweets, live Facebook, live everything as we go play. Thanks, everybody. We hope everybody has a great week, and we look forward to the next one.